All right, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back. It is the Earthmaster back here. Got the live stream back up and running. It went down earlier this morning, about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning or so. Suspiciously, once again, been getting those happen here recently. Not for sure what's going on, but we'll continue onward and upward with the live stream and, of course, daily updates out here. This is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023, about 11:41 a.m. California time. Latest activity looks like a 1.6 Alaska and also 2.4 in the beautiful state of Texas out there outside of Amarillo, it looks like. We did see some movement kicking up overnight, including around the Vanuatu Islands region, and also a pretty good swarm of activity up here in Iran. We did notice some of that kicking up last night. Looks like that continued there for a couple hours in the morning as well. Seen quite a few fives stirring up here on this plate boundary. I got to remember we did have quite a bit of earthquake activity here in western Afghanistan over the past, it's been the past couple weeks now. We can pull that back up and see this unusual activity stirring up here. It's off the plate boundary, away from the typical zones that we normally see over here in the eastern areas of Afghanistan. Historical data shows us that there's not a whole lot of historical earthquake activity out here as far as a large-scale movement that we witnessed here in the past week and a half, 2 weeks or so. We did see, we've seen some rather large earthquakes striking out here with 4 6.3s here. And those did not kick off the swarm. They were right in the middle of all this earthquake activity, so there was really no main quake taking place out here. Quite a few 5s and 4s in there as well. So still a little uncertain as to where this was leading to or where it is leading to. So we've got to watch the region out here pretty closely because I think this is building up something for a much bigger magnitude in the area. So Iran kicking up overnight with some 5s for now. Continue to watch this area, though, for some larger scale movement. The Big Island of Hawaii, a little activity across the Kilauea volcano once again today. We did notice some inflation kicking up here into the Kilauea summit area last night. Let's go ahead and check that out again today. See what we got here for the latest information on Kilauea Summit. This page right here is by the USGS, and you can check many different instruments out here, including cameras, GPS, gas emissions, infrasound, seismometer stations, and tilt meters. Tilt meters are basically what gives us a good indicator of what's going on below the surface as far as inflation goes. Here is the past 2 days. We noticed yesterday that inflation taking a steady rise overnight compared to the 30-day graph here. This is the past 30 days of inflation there at the summit of Kilauea volcano. There's a little dip here. It seems like every couple days or so. We just got through recovering from a dip, which is deflation, and now we're coming back up to inflation, along with the earthquake swarm kicking up here overnight and this morning. So magma on the move for now, continuing to stir up underneath this area. We'll continue to watch that and report back on any major changes that will be taking place out there. The latest informational statement here from the USGS with regards to Kilauea volcano says that the volcano is not erupting, and earthquakes beneath the summit area and extending to the southwest have increased. It's a flip-flop type of discussion here every day. It goes from decrease to increase, suggesting that the intrusive event that began last week is not over. This is completely opposite of what they stated last night. So, if we follow that trend of tilt meter and whatnot, we know this is leading to something probably much bigger in the area, potentially some activation of fissures down here across this region, no longer up here at the Crater Lake area or the Lava Lake region of the volcano, but I think we may be looking at some activation of some fissures, specifically in this area where the earthquake swarm's occurring. So we'll continue to watch that, of course, and report back on it. All right, a little bit of movement up around Mauna Loa as well. Nothing big. This is about 6 kilometers below surface. Some activity up northwest here, Mauna Kea. Looks like we did have a 3.2, about 11 kilometers deep there. watch this area for any type of unusual activity. For right now, just a couple smaller earthquakes in that area. The west coast region of California, handful of earthquakes, not a whole lot going on for Northern California here today. This is the area that's seen that 4.8 and the 4.0 and a couple other quakes here at the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. But for now, looks like a 2.8, 30 kilometers deep into the southern end of the Cascadia. That's about it for now for that area. Up north, some slight activity around Mount St. Helens. We did have one up here right in the crater area. This has been another region of some earthquake activity there at a volcano, but we really haven't seen anything change in terms of volcanic activity. Just been some earthquake activity here. Looks like, well, they have been quiet here over the past couple weeks. There was a pretty good swarm of activity in this area, but it looks like there's only been one here. There's a handful of very small quakes, but if you think about this is already a small quake, a 1.6 right there showing up. So some of these are much smaller. This other activity could be either rock falls, who knows what, maybe a couple other earthquakes up here it looks like. But as far as that earthquake swarm that took place there last month, it's kind of calmed down. Let me see if we can go back here. There's some of it. This is just some of the earthquake activity. This goes back the past 30 days. We would have to add on probably another, it began back in the early September time frame. So we'd have to add back another 2 weeks to this 30-day outlook, or 30-day all magnitudes map. But still, 122 earthquakes within that time frame, not including the main 2 weeks there where it kicked off another 50 or 60. So earthquake activity calmed down, but we'll continue to watch that as we got a 1.6 stirring up there today. All right, the rest of California, go back down south here. Not a whole lot to chat about. Bay Area fairly quiet. Southern California, handful of microquakes, but I don't think we see anything above 2.5. Well, looks like maybe off the coast here, Southern Cal, near Oceanside, had a 3.0 on one of these thrust faults that sit out here. A couple different troughs. About 1:30 in the morning for that three-pointer. Aside from that, though, generally microquake activity out there in the vicinity today. There's a lot of it, but it's very typical there across a major plate boundary. Far as the Yellowstone area goes, let's go ahead and double check that, see what we have for Yellowstone. All the graphs are working right now. Looks like we got some wind kicking up here. Right now is a good time to show you guys what I mean by those readings there on the graph. Let me bring up the windy map and see what we got. I can see it stirring up there on the graph, so we're going to go to wind gusts. Look at that. Definitely stirring up there across Montana. Get some wind gusts up around 50 miles per hour. Specifically here around Yellowstone National Park, we got some pretty good wind gusts as well kicking up. More so on the eastern side of the park, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So that's what's coming in right now. That's what's showing up on the seismograph stations. And it looks like that's going to continue through the majority of the afternoon in that area of Yellowstone. So once again, you guys can see it showing up here like crazy. Don't let anyone else fool you. Tell you that this is magma on the move. If there was no wind and this thing was showing inflation, lots of earthquakes, then I would call that magma movement. But there's a different, there's a different type of reading that magma gives off compared to this. But a lot of people will take advantage of that and say, look at that, that's magma moving over here. But it's nothing but wind showing up here across the seismograph stations, and it's strongest over here across the eastern area of the park, but showing up all over the place. You guys see that? Wind. All right. Outside of that area, Texas seeing some movement outside of Pecos, Texas, and aside from that, there's not a whole lot going on for the eastern portion of the country for now. Costa Rica down here got a little earthquake from yesterday, 4.0. Puerto Rico specifically, let's see here, a couple twos so far this morning, it looks like, mainly around our swarming area. This is very typical. It's been an ongoing pattern there for a couple years. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. It's Let's check out the earthquake 3D globe and see what we got. Not a whole lot going on out there in the Atlantic. Some movement down into the South America area, mostly smaller quakes. Now the area around the Vanuatu region, south of Port Vila, 5.6 coming in earlier this morning, it looks like. 15 kilometers deep. Not a whole lot going on through New Zealand right now. Nothing showing up here on the map. Give a quick glance here at the GeoNet servers while we're at it and see what's going on here. Across the New Zealand region, 3 hours ago, looks like a 2.7, 2.3 2 days ago. This is very similar to any major plate boundary. Going to see some smaller microquakes that were not felt, but maybe showing up on the map. There's that little earthquake there about 3 hours ago around the South Island area. But aside from that, the graphs look pretty calm out there for right now across the New Zealand area. One earthquake out in Greece, southern Greece, outside of Athens. This one 95 kilometers deep here underneath the area of the Sea of Crete. Like I said, I still think something's brewing out here as far as larger scale movement goes, but we'll continue to watch that for any signs. Any signs of life on the sun? Well, we are well below the C flare category. Look at that. We're down, really stretching down into the B flare category. That's the energy out there. SFI energy is 144, pretty low. So we do have numerous sunspots out here currently facing the Earth, but they are not complex. I was watching this area out here last night, but it looks like that has taken a turn for stability. No longer looking like it may went, it was looking like it was possibly going to go into a larger sunspot, maybe complex to an extent, but it's remaining pretty steady there. So there's not a whole lot, at least far as I can see out here, anything going to be producing any major flares at all, or any moderate flares to say as well. So numerous sunspots, but they are all stable in their complexity within that within their magnetic cores. So 80% chance of a C flare. It's pretty low. M flare at 20, X flare around 1%. Proton event probably not likely, 1% or less. Low as well on the KP index. Look at that. No major coronal holes have been facing us. No major CMEs have been produced. What's going on? Goodness. Supposed to be in solar maximum, but this is starting to look more like solar minimum. All right, Storm Prediction Center out here today. Not a whole lot of severe weather threat. A little bit of thunderstorm activity occurring up there in North Dakota and down here around the desert southwest. But aside from that, no hail, wind, or tornado damage or potential here today. The numerical models, well, we do have some storms coming in here. Looks like a good portion of the eastern states are going to be looking at some wet conditions coming up here as we head towards the weekend. Cooler temperatures. And then out here in the California area, we're underneath the influence of some major high pressure. I'm supposed to be looking at 90s. Ugh. Low 90s, maybe mid 90s out here where I live. Not good. Not for sure how long that's going to last. It looks like maybe towards this weekend there's a chance of some rain coming in while this one scoots on out off the east coast. Looks like we got some cooler temperatures stretching into a portion of the west coast area, but it's all over the place. We got storms going up north, going all over, high pressure building in, and it's typical pattern for this time of year with everything changing, right? In the northern hemisphere, we're going into the winter months where everything gets stirred up. The weather patterns change quite often. High pressure out here building in into the west coast here this week. And there's that low pressure bringing some rain there for the eastern portion of the country. Now there's that little bit of potential for low pressure and rain here for the west coast as we head towards the weekend. And let's see what happens after that. Well, looks like another low pressure wants to jump in and provide cooler conditions for me out here because I'm happy with much cooler weather. High pressure building back in the east towards the middle of next week. So we'll just continue to watch that, see how these weather patterns want to behave. But I'm happy with this. This will work. All right, folks. Again, live stream is up and running. The live seismograph stations here show a little spike of an earthquake on Mount St. Helens. Volcano up there in Washington, and a little one down in the Chile area. But we'll continue to watch that around Mount St. Helens, see if that earthquake swarm stirs back up or not. Have yourself a good day, and we'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening for the update. Take care, folks, and stay safe.